This video is a DIY Brazilian sugar wax at home. What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Destiny, and if you're a returning subscriber, you already know what it is. Welcome back to the family. This week's video is a highly, probably one of the most requested videos on my channel, so I'm dishing it out to you guys, giving you all the info. And this video is a DIY Brazilian sugar wax at home. This can go for bikini, Brazilian, whatever you want to do. Just a full disclaimer before this video starts, I am a licensed professional and I have more than 5 years of experience, so please take the information that I give you not lightly. I'd rather you get it from somebody that knows what they're doing instead of someone on the internet that does not have that experience, because you can really hurt yourself. So please be cautious about that. And if you are trying to do this at home, make sure that you listen to all the instructions carefully and you'll be good to go. So let me stop talking, let's just get right on into the video. Get your notebooks out, get your screenshots ready, and feel free to pause, rewind, replay this video as much as you need to perfect this at home, because it doesn't just take one night. But I'm gonna give you guys all that information, and without further ado, let's get right on into the video. So I've been contemplating how to properly formulate this video so that I can give you as much information as I can without making this video too long. So I'm just going to give you guys some tips. I wrote down some bullet points on my phone, so I'm just going to read some of those off my phone. So if I'm looking down, that's why. I'm also going to be trying to give you guys a demo digitally on how to do it. It's not going to be anatomically correct. I mean, anatomically correct, yes, but you know, all the bits and pieces aren't going to be there because obviously this is YouTube. But if you need to see it on like a live person, YouTube does have educational videos. So if you are more of a visual learner, I'm going to be going through it digitally, but if you need a more accurate representation of the area, please look that up on YouTube. There's so many good videos. I'll try to link maybe one or two underneath this video, but please know that these are educational videos and no other purpose. And since they're educational, they really talk you through everything. So I'm going to try my best to do all of that and give you guys some pro tips that I've learned working in the industry for so many years. When you start waxing, you have these patterns to follow, which helps you just learn the ropes basically. And once you learn the ropes, then you can kind of freestyle and do what you want to do. But I'm going to go through the basics for people that, you know, have never waxed before and want to learn how to do it themselves. Feel free to pause this. I'm going to be sharing some contraindications to waxing before we even get into the demo section of this video. Usually in a waxing salon, we'll have our clients fill out a form basically saying if you have or do not have some of these things, so that we know that you will have a safe service. So if you're doing this at home, make sure that you read through these thoroughly and make sure that you will not hurt yourself. This is because I care, and this is because I want you guys to have the best experience possible. You should not be waxing if you are/have been taking antibiotics or acne medications such as Accutane or Retin-A, are sunburned, or have been using a tanning bed 24 hours prior to waxing, have varicose veins, swelling or sensitized skin such as boils or mastitis, any type of skin disorders or diseases such as bruising or recent hemorrhage, scar tissue, especially recent, warts, moles, and skin tabs. These areas should be avoided while waxing. Just as long as you don't wax over them, you'll be good to go. So the first few bullet points pertain to before you're waxing. So if you want a good wax anywhere on the body, you want to make sure that you are exfoliating at least a day or two before your wax, not the day of, because that can cause more irritation to the skin. Since wax already takes off some of those dead skin cells, you do not want to oversensitize the skin, especially if you have sensitive skin. I know that's right. And you also want to moisturize. If you have moisturized skin, those hairs are just going to come out way more smoother, as opposed to dry skin where the hairs can actually break if the skin is too dry, especially with hard wax. So be cautious, make sure that you're taking those pre-care precautions and get that out the way. The next bullet point is do not consume alcohol or caffeine before your wax, especially if you're doing it yourself. So stimulants in the system can cause the skin to be extra sensitive, and also if you're doing it yourself and you're drunk, it's probably not going to come out that well, especially if you're not a professional. Alcohol and caffeine are also vasodilators, so that means that they thin your blood, which makes it easier for you to bleed during hair removal. So instead of drinking like a glass of wine for courage beforehand, try to save it as a celebration for braving your first Brazilian. The third bullet point I have is to cleanse the skin and use cornstarch to remove any excess moisture. I've said all of these things in previous videos, but I'm gonna reiterate it because especially for the Brazilian area, you want to make sure that you're starting with a clean slate so that you can get the best wax possible. Make sure that you're in a well ventilated area. If you have an air conditioner, that's the best way to go. Make sure that you're in an AC'd room. If you don't have that, be in a room with a fan. Try to have the fan close to you because sugar wax does melt to your body temperature. So if you are heating up and sweating, the sugar is going to get stickier and stickier. So trying to mix that with the Brazilian wax is not going to be a great duo. So you heard it here first. Make sure that you are in a well ventilated area. If you have to, use firmer wax because it will melt down and be able to use on regular hair. So usually firm wax is used on coarse hair, but if you have a really hot environment, firm may be the wax to get you through that service. Next bullet point is make sure your hair is a good length to sugar in general. So like I said in my previous videos, you want to have hair as long as a long grain of rice. I'll just try to insert an image here for comparison. It can be longer than that, but it shouldn't be longer than like 2 inches because you're asking for pain. You're asking for unnecessary pulling to the skin, and it can cause much more irritation because there's way more force that needs to be used in order to get that strip off. So make sure that your hair is not too long, and if it is, just trim it down a little bit. No harm, no foul. And that is everything you should do before you wax. Now we're gonna get into how we're even starting it, right? So I have some bullet points down here. And before you even start waxing, you want to look at the area, analyze it, and see what you're working with. You don't want to go in blindsided. You want to make sure that you are going to be able to give yourself a good service. So first thing you should do is take note of which direction your hair is growing in. So especially in the Brazilian, it could probably be growing multiple ways. So you want to be sure to see that. If you have to have a mirror in front of you, please do so, and it'll also help you have cleaner strips if you can see where you're laying it down. So just make sure that you're wary of what direction your hair is growing in, and with sugar wax you want to go in the opposite direction of the hair growth while applying, and then taking it off in the direction of the hair growth. If you're using hard wax or any other form of waxing, it's the complete opposite, and you want to apply in the direction of the hair growth and remove against. So based on what type of wax you want to use those methods. The next pointer I have is to work from the outside in. So some people want to get the hardest parts out the way first. I get you, but if you're not going to a professional and are doing it yourselves, odds are you will not be able to pull those difficult strips first. So take it from me, work from the outside in, because if you end up tapping out and cannot handle it, at least you'll have like the bikini line done, and you won't have half your queen done and the other half, you know, not, which will cause for a really irregular hair growth schedule because the hairs are going to be on totally different lengths all the time. Take it from me, do not start from the inside out, start from the outside in. And the last tip I have before I start showing you the patterns is to make sure that your wax works before you even get to those areas. So do a test strip like on the inner part of your arm, small part on your leg, just to make sure that it's a good temperature. You want to make sure that it's at least room temperature and not too hot. It can be slightly warm, but it should not be burning. If it's too hot, do not apply it. Make sure that it cools down a little bit first before you use it. B, that it works and it does not stick to the skin. Sometimes if it's overheated or it's overcooked, it does not work the same. So just make sure that it's actually applying and flicking off fine before you put it into those difficult areas. So I have my iPad in my hand, and I'm going to be moving a little bit more to this side so that you guys can see what I'm actually drawing right here on my iPad. So I drew a little diagram for you guys. Yes, it has hair on it so that you guys can see how to actually maneuver through it. And the position that this diagram is in would be butterfly. So butterfly is just sitting with your legs open, your feet touching, and as close to your bottom as possible. So I'll try to insert a little diagram here to show you what that looks like. That's the easiest position, in my opinion, to get your Brazilian done.
Your body rocking, your booty popping. I'm proud to call you my bitch. The fuck?
So when I say work from the outside in, I mean start with the bikini line first and then work your way into the hard bits. So the hardest parts are the most sensitive, and that's the parts that are in the innermost part of the Brazilian, right? So since I'm starting on the outside, let's say that this hair grows downwards. Since the hair grows downwards, we want to apply in the opposite direction. So I'm going to be applying, going up, molding 3 times, always 3 times, especially on dense or coarse hair. 3 times, and then I'm gonna be removing in the opposite direction. So once I remove, I should be getting this whole little side out of the way. And take note that I'm not gonna be doing both of these strips at the exact same time. I'm doing one side first, removing, and then I'm doing the other side second and removing. I'm only doing them both at the same time in this video for the sake of me saving time, but remember, work on one side first. Make sure that that side is good, donezo and clean, and then do the other side so that you're working in symmetrical sections. Yeah? So let's just erase this, get this out the way. And after that, the next place I would move is to the top. So based on the surface area that you have, everyone's body is different. You might need more than 1 or 2 strips to cover that surface area, but the same rules apply. You want to make sure that you're working in the opposite direction of hair growth, pulling in the direction of hair growth. So let's say that these hairs are growing in, and usually that's the case. They start to grow towards this middle section here. So since they're growing in that way, I want to apply in the opposite direction, molding 3 times, and then removing. And then I'm going to be doing that same thing all over that top area. So my hair is growing in, I want to apply in the opposite direction and remove it. And the next spot I will move into would be the bottom area. So usually the hair gets a little bit denser towards this middle area, so we want to make sure that we're not just putting wax there and then flicking it off, because odds are it's going to get stuck. Especially if you're doing it by yourself, you want to make sure that you're working in the cleanest of sections that you can. So I'm going to be applying, and remove. And once I do that, then I have those 2 little bottom sections done and out the way so that I can move to the labia. If this way is still a little bit confusing for you, you can also do it this way in smaller strips. So you want to be making sure you're going in the opposite direction of the hair growth and then flicking in the direction of the hair growth. So if your strips have to be slightly smaller like these, please be my guest and do it this way until you actually get the hang of it and can work in bigger strips. I highly recommend working smaller rather than bigger once you're starting out. And sometimes doing a labia strip all in one, it's not gonna work out on your first few times. So I say break it up into 2 pieces. So all this hair is growing down, right? Because it's growing down, we're gonna apply going up. So I'm molding 3 times just on this outer area here, and then removing. That way, all I have now is this little area on the inner part. Same thing I do to one side, I'm gonna do to the other. So I'm gonna be applying, molding 3 times, and removing. And with that, I'll be able to work a little bit easier. Now that I have this area exposed with no surrounding hair, I can ensure that I'm not gonna hurt myself and that I'm gonna get a clean strip out of it. So it's growing inwards here. So I want to apply in the opposite direction and remove. Same thing on the other side. What I do to one side, I do to the other, and then I remove. Now all you have is those 2 little pieces on the bottom. So what are we gonna do? Mold 3 times and remove. Mold 3 times and remove. And once you have that out the way, then all you have to deal with is little stragglers. Like we missed this little piece right here, but let's say like we had a few hairs here and there. Odds are within your first few Brazilian waxes, you're not gonna get all the hairs out, which is completely fine. That's totally natural. It's just that your hair growth is not on the same growth cycle, and it's gonna get there as long as you stay consistent. So because I only have those few stragglers, all I'm gonna do is take my index or pointer finger and just mold, let's say like 2 times over those little areas, and then remove. And from there, we should have a nice, clean area, all Brazilian, all done. The only difference between a bikini full, let's say, and a Brazilian is the butt strip. So that's the part that's hardest to do on yourself. So let's say we're gonna try and do the back part, right, the butt strip. I would recommend standing up to do it with a mirror underneath yourself and put your leg up on a chair, on the bathtub, something, and then just do the same thing. It's gonna probably be like back here. The hairs will probably grow downwards this way, and all you have to do is what I did before. Apply, molding 3 times, and then remove. And sometimes even I don't get some hairs in the back. Sometimes I'll just shave those because they do not grow back too crazy for me. But each to one's own. If you want to try and get all those little hairs, have someone help you if they can. Make sure that you have a good mirror so that you can actually see those tiny stragglers. And with that, we finished our Brazilian wax.
Boom! And there we go.
Now we're going to talk about aftercare. Aftercare is just as important as the pre-care and the Brazilian wax itself. I did make a pre and post wax care video, so I'm gonna leave it up in the info cards above if you guys want to watch that before actually going through with the Brazilian, which I recommend because I go more in depth about the things to do before your wax and after. So I'm just gonna give you guys a brief little thing right now, but if you need something more in depth, definitely watch those videos. Aftercare, you want to make sure that you are not exfoliating the day after your wax. You want to give yourself at least 2 to 3 days before you actually start exfoliating again, because you already took off so many dead skin cells and the hair, so your skin is pretty sensitized right now. Even though it might not feel like it, the skin did go through some trauma, so just make sure that you're putting aftercare on there. I always swear by this. A mix of tea tree and jojoba oil. Sometimes I'll do 3 parts jojoba oil, 1 part tea tree. It really depends on the bottle that I'm using, but I usually use a little bottle from Dollar Tree, and 3 parts jojoba to 1 part tea tree has been working for me. I'll leave a link in the description of the ones that I use specifically. I swear by them. I used to use different ones, but I started using these new ones and I completely love them, and they're not too expensive, and I got them off Amazon. So if you're looking into doing a great aftercare regimen, definitely look into those products. I also recommend to exfoliate at least 2 to 3 times a week after your wax, just to make sure that no sweat, dirt, debris, dead skin cells get caught into those open follicles and cause irritation, ingrown hairs, all that bad stuff that we do not want in our Brazilian area. And just take care of the skin. Honestly, just taking care of it like it's a newborn baby after a wax is the best way to go. Usually I'm on top of it within the first week and a half after my wax, and then I just use my aftercare as I see fit based on my skin. Everyone's skin is different, so sometimes using the oil every day will not be that beneficial for you over a week and a half. So just make sure that you are paying attention to your skin and how it's reacting to the aftercare regimen that you choose. There's also other natural products that you can use for aftercare, like aloe vera. Some people use witch hazel. That also helps relieve stinging after a wax as well, which is great. So if you guys want to try out those types of aftercare, be my guest. I stand by those. I always say go the natural route before you put chemicals, especially on these sensitive areas, right? So if you wouldn't put it on your face, don't put it on her, right?
No, it's true. No, it's true.
This cross is a lie.
Go ahead. No, this is real. Go ahead.
I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I know you guys have been long awaiting this video, so I was so excited to make it for y'all. I hope that the diagram was helpful, and like I said, if you guys need a more real life representation of what these waxes look like, feel free to look them up on YouTube. Disclaimer, like I said before, they are not people doing it on themselves. These are professionals doing them on clients, so they might not be following the same patterns that I'm giving you. So I say try to follow my pattern first, but if you need that live representation, be sure to watch those videos. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing to my channel. It definitely helps me out to continue to make content for you guys. While you're at it, make sure that you hit that little notification bell so that you're notified every single time I post a new video. And without further ado, that is the end of my DIY sugar wax for your Brazilian video. I'm so tired.
I need a drink. I need a drink. I need a drink.
I hope that you guys learned something from this and take some of these pointers and are able to do this service yourself at home. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, you guys know the deal. Leave it in the comment section below and I will try to respond to as many of you as I can. I love you guys so much and I'll see you guys next week in the next video. Bye!